everybody. It's Jamie of Pandora Astrology here in Berkeley, California.
And hey guys, it's Julia Mijas joining in from San Francisco, California.
And today I want to return to a theme that came out in a previous video, which is on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology, in the news playlist for 2020. And it's the video that we made about Saturn and Pluto's conjunction in January of 2020, which is a little bit dire and has really set the tone for the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020. And may set the tone for 2020 in general. But I had some thoughts about this, and Julia and I have been talking about them, and I wanted to share them with you all because I think that they're going to bring a lot more hope. So what occurred to me is that, yes, the things that I told you before are true. The connections between Saturn and Pluto tend to bring extreme, dire, even catastrophic human events. They are often kind of volcanic in their nature. They are often characterized by feelings of heaviness, extreme pressure, and really oppression is a word that I would use. But what occurred to me is that each of those events that I mentioned to you in the previous video and that I showed you the dates of, meaning World War I, World War II, Vietnam, September 11th, and others, each of those circumstances were not just circumstances when oppression was going on. There were circumstances where the previously hidden forces of oppression that were already in existence, like lava building up underground, exploded into view where they could be dealt with, like, frankly, a giant pimple. And I have to say, it feels really good to say that because, we need humor at a time like this, right?
Yeah.
And it's a really good thing that Jupiter has come along to help us. So hopefully Jupiter will bring some humor into it all this year. So I don't know, we might call this the bursting of the giant pimple. Julia, do you want to add any thoughts here? And I'm gonna wheel the chart around in a minute, but I wondered if you have any thoughts that you want to throw in.
Yeah, just and this is a very technical thought. But what's interesting is we got Pluto, we got Saturn, and we have Jupiter. They're all in Capricorn. And Saturn is kind of in his best behavior in Capricorn because that's the sign that he is that's his home base.
Mm-hmm.
And a traditional astrologer might see the reception going on, meaning that the other two planets are going to be in Saturn's sign, so Saturn is receiving them.
Right.
And traditional astrologers said that receptions can be quite mitigating to a difficult aspect as well. That even though it can be challenging, they're all willing to work together. They're going to be better team players together. So yeah, on a technical level, I think that also gives a little relief, and it's always nice to see Jupiter in there too.
Yeah, I really love that thought, and I think that's super helpful. It sort of makes me think of Jupiter and Pluto as a set of wild horses, but Saturn has a firm grip on the reins.
Oh, I like that, yeah.
Now, the only thing that we need to consider about that is that Saturn represents authority, and we have to ask ourselves, do we trust the authorities that are actually in charge? And that's really where the trouble is, don't you think? Yeah. So I think we're going to see a lot of changes, and some of them are going to be really explosive, and they're going to happen in politics and governments around the world. It's not the same revolutionary vibe as happens when Uranus and Pluto get together. But I think that there are going to be, some pretty explosive events.
A reordering of financial systems and authoritative institutions.
That's right. That's right. And we've seen a lot of this going on. I mean, the Catholic Church is having quite messy rumbles going on. The Me Too movement, obviously, because Pluto has to do with sexuality, among other things. And, it's just happening all over. Hollywood, it's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
So, So this chart is set for January 1st of 2020, and we see that Pluto is at 22 degrees of Capricorn, leading the pack. Saturn is moving direct and swiftly catching up with Pluto, and is going to hop over Pluto really shortly, conjuncting Pluto here in January. And Jupiter is cruising along behind in Capricorn, but also direct and fast, and will very soon catch up with these guys. So by the second week of January, we see that Saturn and Pluto are in 22 degrees, and that's where the conjunction happens. So anybody out there who has something in your chart in 22 degrees of any cardinal sign at all, meaning Capricorn, Cancer, or Aries or Libra, or if you have something in your chart that's within a few degrees of that, like say up to 3 degrees on either side of that. So as early as 19 degrees or as late as 25 degrees, you're going to feel this quite strongly. And it's a one blast, and then Saturn will move on quickly. Let's watch it go. Here we are at January 15th, January 22nd, Saturn's at 23 degrees, January 29th, and really by the time February comes along, Saturn is moving off and away. Jupiter is approaching Pluto here and coming into its first conjunction with Pluto. And as I said in the other video, Jupiter and Pluto are going to be dancing together this year in this conjunction. Now, Jupiter brings positivity and hope. It also brings, we have to remember, a quality of expansion and expansionism, like colonialism, for example. Jupiter colonizes. Jupiter is the zealot. Jupiter is the crusader. Jupiter is the reason why Catholicism spread. There were the Crusades, and then it spread, out into colonies all over the world. Jupiter is the reason why so many countries are, have Christian peoples living in them. Why monotheism has spread so much. So Jupiter, we have to remember, is not only the greater benefic, it has its shadow side too. So we have to remember that because Pluto, remember, is draining the swamp in Capricorn. It's doing a lot of purging amongst authority figures and those who radiate authority, who've been placed in positions of power. And Jupiter's position there with Pluto might cause some of those people to try to expand their reach, and that's how their corruption becomes visible.
Oh,
So
wow, yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot of people in power become desperate, overreach themselves, having an overweening confidence that is
Yeah.
founded on nothing. They're not a person of substance, and
Yeah.
they lose their place and fall into disgrace, just like the credits of Mad Men, The
Yeah.
Fall, with the giant woman's foot kicking.
Maybe
I
I
love
want to
that
ask
show.
you because America's Pluto return is going to be on the heels of this.
Oh
So
my
I think
God, yes.
it goes back to 27 degrees Capricorn, which doesn't happen in 2020, but it gets real close in 2021, and then I think it happens in 2022. So within the next presidential cycle of 4 years between 2020 and 2024, we're having this conjunction along with America's Pluto return. So that's kind of like the Pluto square on steroids, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you
I
mentioned
think
that.
it's going to be real different over 4 years from now.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a real different type of country.
So true. I'm so glad you mentioned that. I just pulled up a copy of the United States chart with Sag Rising, the Sibley chart that I think a lot of astrologers think is, really the right chart for our country. And where's that Pluto? 27 degrees of Capricorn right there. Yeah, I mean, human beings don't live long enough to have a Pluto return, but countries do. And that is a massive, massive reckoning. So, and what do we have? An opioid crisis just in time. Isn't that so Pluto?
Very Pluto. Very Pluto.
Oh my God, that has got to have to do with Pluto's return. That's so cool. Okay, all right. Well, we're having fun here, but let me just continue running this chart and let's see what goes on here. So here we are in April. Saturn has already exited Capricorn. You see that? It's moved into early Aquarius. During the course of the year, and Jupiter has jumped over Pluto, during the course of the year, Saturn will turn retrograde in Aquarius, and I'm continuing to run the chart. I'm just going to let it run. But it retrogrades into Capricorn a bit here, and there's still a clump of these three in Capricorn in the summer and fall. And then at the end of the year, right here in January, look, there, Jupiter and Saturn meet up at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So in order for those two to meet up, they almost connect at the very end of Capricorn, 29 degrees, and then just a few days later, boom, 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 there they are. And Jupiter's going to hop over Capricorn right there in the middle of December. So I think there's a lot of reason to hope, but we really need to keep our eyes open. We need to watch for those people who show a certain quality of desperation and are scrabbling to consolidate their power when really they're just not a person of substance, and they are not, who they are pretending to be. And there are a lot of them. There are so many of them out there leading countries and organizations and churches, and oh boy, what a clean sweep it's going to be. Messy, but probably be left better off. Anything you want to add, Julia, before we're done?
I think we covered it.
Great. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, everybody. We certainly enjoyed making it for you, as we always do. You can find this video in our Pandora Astrology YouTube channel, in the 2020 news playlist, also in the January 2020 playlist. You can always find horoscopes there in our YouTube channel and on our website, pandoraastrology.com. And by the way, we are available for readings. You could actually meet with one of us on Zoom from the comfort of your home, wherever you live in the world. And we'd love to see you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. See you around the cosmos.